Welcome to Indie Film Podcast. I'm Victoria.
And I am Chuck. For the month of October, we're talking about the horrors of filmmaking. And let's talk this week about the horrors of film festival submission, which is usually pretty terrifying. But Victoria, you have a success story that you want to share this week, which is how did you get your $250 short film into an Academy Award qualifying festival?
Oh, yeah. Ron Howard's my uncle, so I just figured that's how everyone does it.
Oh, I guess I can see the resemblance there.
Thank you. That's very kind. And obviously, for our regular viewers, they know that's completely not true. If I had anyone in my family that well connected, I probably wouldn't be on this podcast.
And I would have a different podcast where I'm just dispensing health and wellness advice. Medical advice, too.
Maybe starting down that political stream.
Could be. But instead, I talk about filmmaking.
That seems better. And much like politics, nepotism is a big deal in filmmaking. However, it's not the only way to get your film into a festival. So we have a couple of different things you can try, things that are within your access, and then different connections that you can leverage to get your film into more film festivals, or at least based on the N1 example that I've got.
Yeah, which is a good example because you went into the film festival submissions with a strategy. A lot of us have heard submit to the big ones first and give them the first right of refusal, which is what I've tried with the films that I've been a part of and have not screened at Sundance, have not screened at Slamdance, unfortunately. Otherwise, maybe some people might have heard of me out there. But it didn't go well. And then on our films, we ended up having to wait an extended period of time to go to that next tier of film festival submissions. But can you tell everybody out there what you did with Dive, which is the name of the short film, what your acceptance rate has been so far, and where it's going to be screening as far as Academy of qualifying festivals?
And to be fair, screening at an Academy Award qualifying festival does not mean that I am nominated for an Academy Award.
No.
I think we need to clarify that.
Good point.
Real fast.
Well, it's just a way of demarcating that it is a major festival.
It is a big festival, and I'm really excited about it. I would say the first thing that I did, and I will run through just the steps really fast and then go through and elaborate on them so I don't end up just whining around a very curvy path to get to a thought.
Nice.
Because that would be unpleasant for everyone.
Family circus-esque.
Yeah.
We do that a lot on this podcast anyway. I'm sure you listeners are used to it by now. But
maybe, but I'll try to be a little bit more succinct.
Yeah, tell us about your strategy.
So the strategy was born from exactly what you said, that first right of refusal idea. I just think it's a lie.
Okay.
I know that Sundance and Slamdance and Rain Dance, I don't know how many other, South by, Tribeca, all the big ones.
TIFF,
which did say no to Dive.
Whoops.
But that's okay. You gotta.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like they all say that they want for that first right of refusal, but I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I think unless you've made some buzz and some noise about your film at other festivals first, I don't think they're going to give you the time of day, unless there are two other options. Unless you know somebody at the festival.
Okay.
Which, fair, that will probably give you a leg up over a lot of other people.
Absolutely.
And two, if you have a really big name.
Yeah.
Who just stopped in. Like if Willie Nelson popped into your film for a hot sec, or Ron Howard plays your uncle in this film, then
good plan.
I'm just going to keep pitching that and hope that somehow, some way, this algorithm shows him this and he kind of looks at me and thinks, there's a slight chance. Maybe I have a long lost niece out there. Maybe I should fund her next film.
This is a good plan. This is actually what we've been working all year towards.
This was it. This was
just
the big moment.
Dropping Ron Howard's name and hoping for the best.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Cast us in Arrested Development season 7, which nobody's watching still.
Oh.
Wah, wah.
Okay, so the strategy, in short. Again, I will get through this in more detail because a lot of this is going to be sketchy, but also if you don't want to hang around for the ride and you just want to hear this and then you want to be like, wow, she's an idiot, I don't believe a word she says, that's fine too. It started with goals. You have to have goals for your film festival strategy. Then I submitted to online-only festivals first.
Okay.
And then I went to really small, first year especially, festivals that were just getting started and other smaller niche festivals, especially ones that I could get to easily.
Okay.
And then I went with genre fests and bigger festivals. And then, of course, the obligatory, you got to submit to at least a few of the big boys just because, I don't know, you gotta.
Okay, so you basically started off Dive then, and you released it in April. Excuse me, it's first screened in April. It's
Yes.
not released yet.
It's not released yet.
But it first screened as part of a competition in April, and then how many festivals had you heard back from within a couple of months?
Because I went with those online-only festivals, and they usually do a monthly turnaround, by June, I had already heard from 4 of them.
Okay, so
And that I had been accepted and won.
nice.
And at least one award at every single one of them.
So you're building up laurels on your short film before you even hear back from any of the in-person festivals.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that turnaround time is so fast. And yes, they are a money grab. Everyone is going to call them that, and they're right. Of course they are. They are short little online festivals that screen nowhere, and which is great because it protects your premiere status. But they also have the option for reviews on them.
Yeah.
Which means that for an extra $75, $85, whatever, I can now get somebody else talking about my film, a backlink somewhere to my film that's from a... Okay, maybe not all of them are the most trustworthy websites, but some of them are.
Yeah.
So do your research.
And a lot of us out there have paid for reviews, and there's no shame in that. It's
You
just
have to.
something that you need to do to get
If you
nice
want any-
phrases to put onto your poster so that you can market it.
Exactly. If you want any sort of critical acclaim on your film, you've got to start somewhere. And yeah, starting with those short little monthly festivals where you just tack it on as an additional fee, it's so easy because then within a month you have it back and you know exactly what's going on with it. Because some of the other places online that'll offer you a review for your film, sometimes they say you can submit it for free. You may or may not hear back in a few years.
Yeah.
But like the other ones where if you pay for them, usually in, 6 to 8 weeks or so, you'll hear back. The monthly festivals, it just speeds that up a little bit. No, they're not the best reviews in the world. Yeah, they're probably most definitely written by AI. Did one of them specifically come back and say that my film proved that there are no safe spaces for women
Ooh.
and that women can trust no one but themselves?
Ooh.
Which I think is a little dark and maybe not what my film is really about.
That was definitely a hot take on your movie.
That was a little bit of a hot take on Dive, I think, considering she's building a friendship with a complete stranger and the bartender's like being kind of kind and nice and protective. But whatever, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
You don't know who wrote the review or if it was.
I know who wrote the review.
Oh, or you don't know if it was an actual
I know
person.
it was definitely a computer. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
not a human writing that. I
Oh.
know that. Which
there you go.
I guess is a good point to say, shameless plug here.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons we set up reviews on Indie Film Podcast, and we're still launching it. It's still very new, but if you are at all interested in having actual humans write a review for your film, please just use the get featured, submit your film options on our website, and it won't be written by AI, and we won't say things like, "Congratulations, you proved that there are no safe spaces for women."
Yes. We are beginning to offer that service. I also just kind of want to tangentially point out, thank you everybody who's been watching, commenting, emailing, and asking us to appear on the podcast, but we only do in-person interviews. We're not going to Zoom. We're not going to, whatever that other software is, Riverside. It's just not the vibe that we want to go with. It's audio, video quality issues. But thank you all for reaching out about coming onto the podcast.
It is really cool, and we do want to see your films. So
Absolutely.
keep telling us about them because that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. There's so many indie filmmakers out there with a lot of really quality work.
Yeah.
So it's been cool to see. That's kind of one of the things that I didn't think about until you mentioned your strategy as far as like the quality of the films, because early on when I was making films with my brother, we had some very low quality films that we turned out, and we did the same thing where we just assumed that, well, we can get into Sundance with this.
Yeah.
It's unique.
It's different. It's special.
Exactly. And ended up spending a year and a whole bunch of money, and then ended up only getting featured in some of our local / regional film festivals, which was completely fine. But if you go in with that mindset of, well, I'm going to screen at Sundance, and then you don't get in, that's a disappointment for you as the filmmaker all the way through. Whereas if you're submitting to an online film festival or a series of online film festivals and you're seeing hit and miss success with that rather than a whole bunch of success, maybe you need to think, is this film worth spending the money on submitting to the bigger ones? Or do I need to look at this film again, maybe make some cuts, maybe fix the audio issues that you're having?
Of course, the sound guy would say that.
Maybe you need to hire somebody to gaff it or hire a cinematographer the next time that you go out to shoot something so that you can get something that looks and sounds good. Because even with what you said with first-year film festivals, you had the opportunity to do some judge work for a first-year film festival here in Boise.
Yeah.
And the quality on those films that were getting sent into this first-year festival were really high.
Yeah. Yeah, there are really, really good filmmakers out there, just so you know. The competition is strong.
There was one feature that even had actors that you would recognize.
Yeah, they were, I don't even know if I would call these C-list actors. Like, they were very identifiable. They've been working for generations. They have very well-established followings.
And currently active.
Yes.
They're not people that had a following 20 years ago that have since fallen off.
They're definitely still doing a lot of work and doing a lot of big budget work. So, again, kudos to that film.
But this was one of those things which was interesting to me to see, but I would imagine that maybe this person as a performer wanted to get involved in something and help somebody that's trying to create something, because the budget was clearly not what you would expect for somebody that was of a high caliber, but maybe they just knew somebody, or maybe they wanted to cut their teeth in the directing realm of things.
I think they were doing a favor for Ron Howard's niece.
Oh, that could be another way to do it too. Good point.
I don't even know if he has a niece. I shouldn't be talking out of my ass like this. But to that point, I did learn a couple of things.
He does have a promiscuous brother. Sorry, that was late. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
The actor? Does Ron Howard have a brother?
Ron Howard's brother, that would make you his niece.
Oh, that would. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay.
You're
All
welcome.
Right, we got there. It took me a hot minute, but I got there.
It took me a while to come up with that joke, so it's fine. I waited until you were mid-sentence on the next thing you were saying, but my gears are still turning too. Okay,
the next thing I was going to say was that in addition to those online-only festivals giving you a quick sort of litmus test on how well is this film going to do.
Yeah.
Is it going to totally sweep all these online awards? Is it going to be a guaranteed shoo-in for at least getting featured? Or is it going to be, like you said, very hit and miss? It can also be a good time for you to look back if you don't think that there's something technically wrong with your film.
Yeah.
And you think that the story is very solid. Your actors are good. Everything looks very clean. It's all well lit. You can hear all the dialogue, but there's still diegetic sound and everything's great. Then I would challenge you to take a look at the runtime of your film.
Yeah.
Because the runtime, I think, as a judge, can make or break it. If you have a 15-minute or longer short film, I don't think it's going to get watched by most of the judges. These judges are humans with full lives and a lot of stuff to do and probably pretty tight deadlines for when they need to have all of these films watched by. And there are just only so many hours in a day. So if your film is hitting that 35-minute mark, and especially if you don't just knock their socks off in the first 30 to 60 seconds, they might not bother watching to the end. And they're allowed to do that. As the judge, if you're not holding their attention, they're allowed to have that as sort of their judging mentality and their paradigm to use to critique your film. So if you've got a 15-minute short film and it's not doing well, try cutting it to an 8-minute short film. See what happens. Just see if your acceptance rate changes, because you can use this feedback to recut your film. And as a matter of fact, I would say that's a really good goal to have for your film festival strategy.
Yeah, if you already have a short, see if you can make it shorter.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a couple things there. I have heard anecdotal evidence from somebody that was a programmer at a major film festival, and she told me that the volunteer judges would always fight to review the shortest films first.
Yep.
So that the longer short films, there was a lot of fatigue by the time they got to the 15, 20, 25-minute films, to where if it's not complete perfect gold, your judges are going to be exhausted watching them, and they're probably just going to click next. And the thing is, those volunteer judges, they might get like passes or get some benefits for helping out with the film festival. And at the same time, they just had to judge a certain number of films, and they're going to want to do the short ones first.
They definitely will. And to that point, the only reason that I was brought on as a judge to one film festival was because none of the judges would review the features.
Oh, yeah.
I was the only one that was willing to do that.
And that takes some time.
It definitely takes a lot of time. But, I mean, that means that between that programmer and at least one other programmer, which I understand is not a large sample size, but there's also a lot of anecdotes on Reddit that would agree with that wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, you got to have a really killer film for people to want to watch a full 75 to 90 minutes of it, which again, don't wait until 35 minutes into your movie to get to something really good and show-stopping and get me to a plot point that I'm excited about. Give me something. It doesn't have to be everything. You don't have to give it all away up front, but man, in that first 5 minutes, I need something to connect with.
Start with a strong scene.
Yeah.
Just if at all possible, start with something strong, even if it's nebulous. And I think I told the audience before, with the most recent feature film I worked on with Lower Gentry Studios, Stockton at Table Rock, we re-edited the entire thing after we screened it.
Yeah.
And the beginning was totally different. And even though nobody noticed it when we showed it again to some friends of ours a year later, they just noticed that the film felt better.
Which is the best type of result you can get, right?
Like, and these are not cinemaphiles, and they're not filmmakers for sure. They didn't understand what changed, but editing can make or break your film.
Oh, definitely.
For sure. And the other point I wanted to bring up too, that I always find very funny when you go to film festivals that are also competitions.
Yeah.
And they have a time limit.
Yeah.
And the time limit is, let's say it's 10 minutes, or let's say it's 6 minutes. Why is it that every single film is right at that minute marker? Not all the stories are told in that amount of time.
No. And some of them maybe shouldn't be. You don't need that extra long shot just because you liked it and thought it was pretty. Do the kill your darlings thing.
Yeah.
And it sucks to do it because you loved that shot or you loved that moment, but sometimes you've just got to cut it.
Yeah.
And it's got to just go for the sake of the entire flow of the story. I will also say that for those little local festival competitions, if you want to have a longer credit sequence to make sure you give the appropriate praise and acknowledgement to everyone who helped out, totally cool. Please recut those credits before you submit it out to another festival, because if you submit an 8-minute film and 3 minutes of that film is a cutesy little BTS footage credit sequence, no, I'm sorry, that each of those actors does not need their own title screen. You do not have to have it on there that long. You need 30 to 60 seconds tops. And 60 would be for like your feature.
Yeah.
The dive credits, I think, are 8 seconds.
Yeah, that was good. It's a short film.
It's a short film. It's an 8-minute film. It's just one block of names. It goes up.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Move it along, folks. So you did the online film festivals with Dive.
Yes.
Then you went into the regional.
I did.
And film festivals. And let's go over the film festivals, where it's played, where it will play, and...
Before we do that, I do want to go over the goals first.
Oh, what were your goals?
Because goals is the first step, because you do need a strategy behind your film festival strategy.
Yes, you do.
A little more repetitive than I wanted it to be. I should have had a strategy for that sentence. So if you are creating a feature film and you have a proof of concept as your short,
which is
my situation with Dive, yes, then you need to know what you want out of the festivals. So you either want the networking for the money, you want the audience reactions to see how it plays out to your target demographic, you just want to see if some of your hooks or your story ideas or your storytelling methods work. Do people like this cinematography style? What's the general response?
Yeah.
It can be feedback. It can be networking. It can be, I made a movie and now I just want to be famous. I would maybe not recommend that. I don't know if that'll be a successful one.
With the I'm going to be famous one?
Yeah. I don't.
Oh, that's true. Famous is so nebulous.
Famous is super nebulous.
So you had very specific goals with your short film dive.
I did. Yeah. I wanted to see how horror audiences responded to it because it's a psychological thriller, which means that type of film can be rejected by a lot of big horror fans.
Yeah.
Because it's not a slasher and it's not a serial killer and it's not super gory and there's no monster.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the horror community can be a little off-put by thriller films because they don't feel like it fits into their niche and their genre quite well enough.
Yeah.
I say trying to win some of them back by wearing my Evil Dead t-shirt.
Ooh, nice.
Not that you can really tell because I'm behind a table and
I
a
forgot
microphone.
my costume, which was I am an ox shirt. Or pretend I am an ox shirt.
It's a lovely Halloween
very
costume.
lazy Halloween costumes for me all the time. So you had your goals set up.
Yes.
You submitted to the online only festivals first.
Yes.
You got positive reception from those.
Yeah. It won Best Film at
IndieX.
all but one that I submitted to.
Okay. So you were feeling good after that.
Yeah.
And then
And my actress won some awards. My cinematographer was nominated. You were nominated for sound. Like there were. It was good. It was very.
so you were getting
reception.
very positive reception
Yes.
from that, which that's another sign that you did have good performances,
Yeah.
solid story, and the technical aspects like the lighting and the sound were in place. If you're getting nominations for all of the above, not maybe necessarily winning all of them, but it was in consideration.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that these online film festivals being so frequent, therefore they're going to have they're going to be a little bit more open to competition. So maybe competition isn't quite as tight.
It's not.
Because you're not trying to get into a limited theatrical screening.
Exactly.
So
and they know month over month there's going to be another one. And with those month over month ones, nothing says that if you do decide to pay for the extra feedback, the review or the critique or whatever, they kind of grade you on all the different things.
Yeah.
When you get that feedback, use it, recut your film. If you need to do pickups or reshoots and you have the ability to do so, do
Yeah.
it, submit again and see if it goes better the second time. Like these festivals can be tools. They can be a money grab, but they can be valuable tools.
yeah.
So
don't throw all those options out there.
yes.
We actually went to a few festivals. Do you want
Yes.
to talk about the festivals that we actually attended? And we plan on reviewing these as visitors / filmmakers in the future. Just so
Yes.
you know, because I think it's valuable information for filmmakers to have whether or not they should submit to festivals they've never been to.
Yeah, it would just be nice if everyone talked about it a little bit more openly and like, what did you really get out of it? Do you feel
Yeah.
like it was worth it? Did you enjoy yourself? I feel like did you enjoy yourself is the most important part.
Yeah.
But
Did you make the connections and
Yeah.
making sure that you feel valued by the festival? That's all very important. So
Yeah.
the first screening that we went to,
was the She Her Fest in Seattle,
yeah.
which was Dive is a very female-centric film that centers around domestic violence. So
So that was one of your niche film
Yes.
festival that was first year as well, I believe.
yes, this was
Correct.
the first year for She, Her, but was also a female-centric film
Yeah.
festival. So it was the perfect target, right?
Yeah. And so that one it screened there.
It
which,
did.
Which was actually really cool because it was only one block.
Yeah,
Of
there were
films.
only
So-
6 films.
So it was very limited.
Yeah.
The selections that they made. And then it also happened to be at the Seattle International Film Festival Theater.
Yeah, which was
one of their
really cool.
locations, excuse me.
Yeah.
But it was kind of neat.
That was just fun. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of a little bucket list item. Plus, I love Seattle. So,
Yeah. So
you know.
we got to go there, but that
Yeah.
was another one where that was outside of the monthly film festival into the regional / niche,
Yes.
then off to Portland.
Yes, for the Portland Under the Stars Festival, which was a fun new festival in a sense because there's already Austin Under the Stars and LA Under the Stars. So they were just opening up another version of that called Portland Under the Stars. So it was technically the first year for Portland Under the Stars Festival, even though that larger festival chain does already exist and does have a pretty big following and pretty large attendance.
Yeah. And
So-
that one was also it was one day,
Yeah, but it was 4 blocks?
4 blocks, I believe.
4 blocks and very well attended.
Yes.
That theater was packed all day.
Yeah. Portland, shout out to Portland for keeping it weird there and keeping in touch with your local artists because
Yeah.
it was a lot of people, and we'll review it in detail, but Portland, the community shows up.
They
which
did.
was neat. The
was
final
really
screening
cool.
was standing room only, and people
On
were
both levels of that theater. And
people were having drinks. People were having
Yes.
a good time at the screening.
the audience reactions to all the films of that one. But it was really nice because that, again, was one of the goals. I wanted to gauge audience reactions, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to see how do people respond to this. And
at a film festival like that, where people were very vocal.
excited about it and invested in the movie, even though I'm not a local and nobody knows anybody that's in my film.
Yeah.
It was still really nice to get such an animated response from really excited artists.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
And attendees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this wasn't a film festival where only the artists show up. So
I guess that's true. I guess I just assume everyone in Portland is an artist of some form or
good
another.
point. Yes.
I don't know for sure.
yeah,
but-
that's fair. But they weren't filmmakers. So let's talk about Chicago Horror Film Fest then.
Yes,
Because
so
that was
then-
the next one, which is the
one of the bigger tiers, still genred, but definitely one of the bigger festivals. I mean, there
Yeah.
were 250, 300 films playing at this festival
Yeah,
for
huge number.
3 days.
Yeah.
Like that was a big one. It was
big turnout from people all over the country and
technically all over the continent.
all over the continent for that one as well.
Yes.
Because we met a cool filmmaker from Toronto. But that one was very well attended by both the community and the filmmakers.
Yeah, that
Which
was
was
really
neat.
nice to get that many people flying in from all over, but then still having people in Chicago being excited
Yeah.
about being at the festival. So that was really awesome. I think they have officially won now. Chicago is officially the Chicago Horror Film Festival is officially the most top-rated horror film festival on Film Freeway now. But it was a really good chance for that niche horror genre audience to see how are they going to respond in a weekend full of bloody massacres,
Yeah.
creepy monsters, and terrifying psychopaths.
Yes.
Are they going to like my little thriller film?
Yeah. And it went well.
It
The
did go
screening
well.
there.
It was definitely a quieter response than I'd seen at some of the other festivals because it was, especially at the beginning, it's such a
Yeah.
slow burn, which
Yeah.
is maybe another reason I need to, when I'm working on the feature, cut to some other stuff. And maybe I need a little bit more action-packed at the get-go kind
Yeah.
of situation to really lay the fabric if I want to please that horror audience too.
Yeah.
So it was still really valuable feedback. And thankfully, by the end of the film, they were more animated. But
Yeah.
toward the beginning, it was a little bit quiet in that theater. I was like, oh, why am I here?
And that was a success though, just to get into that. You know,
Yeah.
it was a quieter audience, but getting into that film festival was a success.
Oh,
you
getting
had already
to-
leveraged some laurels and some reviews though from previous film festivals. So
Yes.
there's a chance that these film festivals already saw that this film that they've never heard of has had some past success.
That is the one thing that I would recommend you do is on your Film Freeway profile, you can go and edit your specific project. You can go, I think it's section 5, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Where you can go in and add additional screenings and award wins. And I would do that if I mean, I guess I did do
Okay.
that. So I would suggest doing that because it's not a guarantee. The festival itself has a choice on whether or not it allows the judges to see that information. But if there is a chance that the festival's like, yeah, we just want you to be able to see if this is doing well other
Yeah.
places, I mean, why wouldn't they watch those first? And if at least getting a judge to be excited enough to watch your film is the first step,
Yeah.
which again, I would say is marketing your film. It's a good
Yeah.
title, good poster art, good like opener. Anyway, not the point. I've preached enough about marketing, but in a world where you have every possible chance to put your best foot forward in front of the person who's going to decide whether or not they even bother to program your film, why wouldn't you? Just lay it out there. Let them know. You can write a cover letter to every festival. So if you want to talk about it, you can. And you can explain and go into detail on either the meaning behind the film or any fun twists or like anything you want to give them. Let them know to entice them to watch your film.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest part, I think, for getting programmed is will a judge actually watch your film?
Yeah. And so you recently got notified of a larger, more prominent film festival.
Yes, I submitted to 2 well, technically 3, because Screamfest, I would say, is a pretty large horror festival as well.
Okay.
And I definitely did not get into that one. And I did not get into the Toronto International Film Festival,
No.
though their application for submissions was really cool. It was very in-depth. It went into a lot of different trigger warnings and things. I think I mentioned that a little bit on our last film festival discussion, but it was really cool. The process for submitting to TIFF was awesome. But the other big festival that I submitted to that I did get into was the Sun Valley Film Festival, and that'll be in December.
Which is actually regional here in Idaho.
Yes.
However, they do have Hollywood stars that come out and usually screen a film or two every single year. For example, Demi Moore last year with The Substance.
Yeah.
It was one of the earlier screenings of that film.
And it's like a 5 or 6 day festival, and it's very packed. It's very busy. There's a lot of A, B, and C listers there all the time, and they sort of just take over the ski resort town in northern-ish central, I guess, Idaho.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really exciting because they have moved their schedule around. I think just a few years ago, they became an Academy Awards qualifying festival. So it's definitely a bigger one. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
And now I got to figure out how to do my personal best impression of Matt Stone and Trey Parker and see what sort of weird splash situation I can do like they did with the Cannibal the Musical at Sundance.
There we
When
go.
Sundance rejected them, they said, no, we will rent out a conference room at a hotel nearby. We will plaster the town with our own marketing, and we will screen it ourselves on a rented crappy projector.
That's right. Yeah, they did do the gorilla
that.
thing. So
They did.
we'll have to follow up with that to see how it goes.
Let you know how it goes.
We'll review all of these film festivals as well, so you all as filmmakers will know a little bit of the inside information from us having attended, and we'll be brutally honest with our reviews.
Yeah.
For sure. So can you talk about, like, real quick, though, before we're done, what your acceptance rate was?
Yeah,
because
I think that's really important because in comparison, what's the worst that could happen?
That was your short film that you filmed in 2014.
Yeah. No.
Or 2024, sorry.
Yes.
I'm a decade off.
I was
blame
like, wait,
COVID still.
no, I was doing other projects in 2014.
Yeah.
No.
So this was like a little over a year ago, year and a half ago.
I was created for the same original festival though. And it had an 8% acceptance rate on Film Freeway. Anecdotally, Reddit says that anywhere from 13 to 17% acceptance rate is pretty typical. And if you're above 20, you should feel good. And then I think you've had similar acceptance rates with Stockton.
Yeah. Yes, which is the first thing that I ever helped produce that was of very high quality.
Yeah, Stockton's solid.
Aside from Dive, but I would imagine that the stuff that we produced before that had a very low acceptance rate because the audio and the video quality was bad.
Well,
Or it wasn't perfect.
I don't have very great things to say about the video quality for what's the worst that could happen. And I was the cinematographer, so I have nobody to blame but myself. But that's okay. The audio is great though. So I think that's the 8% acceptance rate that we saw for
Well,
it.
it was technically it was decent. What's the worst that could happen? It wasn't as eloquently shot and lit as Dive because you had a cinematographer and a gaffer.
Yes, and
that
they're
helped out.
both brilliant.
Yeah, so that
helped.
huge.
That helped a lot.
But anyway, you were 8% previously.
Yeah,
And this one a year later.
A year later with 28 festival submissions as opposed to the 27 that I had for the last one. So very similar amounts of festivals, though very different strategies. Dive is sitting at 55% acceptance rate. Though for full transparency here, because I was paying for some bigger festivals and I was paying for the reviews and the add-ons, while Dive is a $250 film, the film festival budget was $739.
So you're spending basically 2/3 of your budget or 3/4.
3/4 of my budget is marketing.
Just on the film festival submissions.
Yep.
And not even attending the festival. So that's always something that you want to consider, even if you can get your friends together to help you shoot something. It's going to be a decent chunk of cash to submit to film festivals.
But in my defense, I set a cap at $1,000. I said I'm not allowed to spend more than $1,000. And I did keep it under budget on that front. So at least I did that.
And I want to point out to everybody, too, that even if you remove the online-only film festival acceptances from your rate and you get rejected from the remaining film festivals, you're still going to be over 20%, I believe,
I think
as far
yeah,
as
I think
acceptance rate.
that would have been 26 or 27.
Yeah, so you're still in a very high acceptance rate. And
But I don't think the acceptance rate would be that high if I didn't have that upper edge of taking the shorter review time festivals, those
Yeah.
little monthly ones where the stakes are a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a little bit more expensive,
yeah.
but getting those laurels and putting it on the project, I don't know if my acceptance rate to the other festivals would have been as high.
Yeah. So there you go. Just kind of a different paradigm as far as film festival submission, but with this one example, it seems to be working well. So if anyone out there wants to try it, or if anyone out there who has tried it has different result, please comment.
Share.
Please let us know, because we'd
Yeah.
love to share that. And comment. Tell us about your film festivals that you've loved in the description.
And let us know your acceptance rates, because right now the film festivals all keep that pretty hush-hush. But if we all share that information, we all then hold the power. So I think that that's a conversation worth having.
It's like you gotta talk about how much money you're making at your job.
Exactly.
Otherwise, your managers are going to be doing some shady stuff out there.
screw
So
you over.
let's hold these film festivals accountable, everybody. Anything else that you want to add before we say farewell?
I think that's everything I've got.
Excellent. Well, we will succinctly say goodbye then.
Bye.